right at the start of my career. I was involved in a startup that grew very successfully, and always been super passionate about, in particular, supporting the smaller business that are coming through, because they're the bedrock really of the channel community. We reckon by our count there's about 20,000 resellers, MSPs, consultancies serving the SMB market in the UK. And so often the focus is on the very big players, but not on the startups and the innovators that are doing amazing things for the rump of SMBs. So, we're passionate about really supporting that model. And one thing that I'd say is that I think, if I look back over all of the transitions that have happened and the exciting technology changes that have happened over the last few years, I can honestly say that I don't think there's ever been a better time than now to be setting up or to be growing a channel business. And the reason I say that is because genuinely, I've never seen as big a gap exist between the capability of technology and the ability of SMB customers to consume it. That gap is huge. If we think about all the amazing capability in AI and intelligence and all the need for protecting businesses with cybersecurity services, SMBs really, really want all this brilliant technology, but the gap between their ability to consume it and their desire for it has never been greater. So that just means there is such a brilliant opportunity for creating really special differentiated services businesses. And so many of the people in the top 50 list, Doug, are exactly those businesses. And I'm not diminishing for a minute the fact that it is tough out there right now for SMBs. The market is tough. And the SMBs are really struggling with business confidence. Business confidence is at a record low. But through all of that, businesses really, really need technology. They're relying on technology. And technology is one of the key levers that these small businesses have to really differentiate their business and to grow and to become more efficient and more productive and deliver better service to their customers. So right now, SMBs need these small MSPs and resellers more than ever. So love shining a light on them. Just to give you some numbers, just to break down how I'm thinking about this. So we work very closely with an analyst called Analysis Mason, and they specifically track UK SMB tech spend. And they reckon that the overall market is about $65 billion this year, growing at about 6.5%. But if you look behind those numbers, it's important to understand where the growth is coming from. And we've had a very interesting inflection point that happened at the back end of last year, so early in 2025. So you can divide the market into two. So if you take the market for cloud services, so infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and the managed services that go alongside that, that is a market that's in high growth. It's growing at more than 10% a year. You've then got the other half of the market, is literally half of the spend in the market, that is in what you would describe as more legacy and utility technologies. So this is all the things like your telco services, your traditional on-premise services, on-premise software, and the traditional professional services and break-fix services. And that area of the market is growing net at about 2%. And if we think about, the economy, so interest rates are what, 4 to 5% at the moment. So if you're growing at 2%, you're basically losing against the market. If you're growing at 10%, you're growing above. So this market is really divided into two. And what we're seeing, this community of high growth MSPs and services businesses that you're characterizing in this report as doing, is they are basing their business on that high growth subscription market. So they're basing their business on packaging together cloud subscriptions, wrapping them in managed services, automating that through their runtime, through their systems, to be able to deliver very effectively out to small businesses the products and services that small businesses really want. And we are at that inflection point where more of the market is now in cloud services than in traditional services, and all of the growth is in that new area. So that's the really interesting thing. And of course, where there's growth, growth really to me represents the strategic conversation with the customer. So, everyone's talking about AI, obviously, and intelligence and this kind of super cycle that we're running into now. If small businesses are going to capitalize on this era of intelligence, the only way that they're going to do that is through leveraging these new subscription services, through moving their business into cloud, exposing their data to cloud services, protecting their business with subscription cybersecurity is the only way that a modern business can really operate, grow, scale, uh, uh, deliver their technology reliably, and so on. And that's the key bit that these MSPs are supporting. The conversation around intelligence and artificial intelligence has definitely leapt out. If you think about last year, a lot of the conversation was about building out managed services and cybersecurity, but less talk about monetization of artificial intelligence. This year, so much of it has been about that. Now, whether or not that is actual spend or whether that is because a lot of the MSPs that are in the top 50 are doing all that preparedness work and are really getting their heads around how they engage and how they structure and how they build out their business to address that need for the customer, I'm not sure. I think it's the latter rather than the former, but that leapt out to me without a doubt. So, the things that we're seeing the high growth MSPs doing in particular is taking the opportunity of AI and intelligence, and they're using it inside their business as what's come to be known as customer zero, being customer zero. So aggressively implementing those services into the back end of their business to automate, to deliver self-service, to transform their business processes and their workflows. But in doing that, really learning on the job how to build that out. And when they've done that for their own business, then start to face that off into their customers in a value proposition, in an automation and an AI and an intelligence proposition out to their customers.